It's melt season at Burger King.
Melt away the winter with BK's Cheesy Melt. Get classic, bacon, or shroom and Swiss for only $4.99.
BK, have it your way.
Get with 2 Whopper Junior Patties. Limited time at participating U.S. Burger King restaurants. Price may vary.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to A Catholic's Perspective, the podcast all about being a young Catholic surviving in a secular world. Today, I have a special guest with us. I have Joe Jarrell. He is a fitness coach online, right, Joe?
That's correct.
Yes. Why don't you introduce yourself a little bit more for the guests that are listening?
Yeah, for sure. So, like Amber said, I'm a online fitness coach and life coach for Catholic men. We've been doing that for about 2 years. And I've also branched into speaking a little bit, started to speak at Newman centers, Catholic colleges, just to speak on masculinity, self-development, and things like that, predominantly for Catholic men, trying to help them out. So.
Yeah, and I think it's really important because Catholic men need a little bit of help today because there are a lot of great resources out there, but sometimes they don't know where to turn. They don't know who to trust sometimes because there's a lot of
Yes.
people that like to profit off of men's weaknesses.
Mhm.
And so to have a Catholic fitness coach, a Catholic life coach who genuinely wants what's best for them is like so hard to find. So guys, go check out Joe Jarrell.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's why I built it. I mean, I didn't find anything like this, what I wanted, what I needed. And so I built it, and that's kind of what we're doing now. And now we have, over 150 guys. We have priests on the team. We got other coaches. So it's really grown into this ministry. It's helping a lot of guys, which is
Yeah, that's
very great.
fantastic. And I think hopefully it'll continue to grow, and hopefully some people listening today will check you out on Instagram. And where else are you?
Mostly IG. I do have YouTube as well, and then we're branching into Spotify. And the podcast on Spotify is called Tradition Transformed.
Great. All right.
Yeah.
So today's podcast is because Valentine's Day is coming up so quickly. I was like, this would be the perfect time to kind of talk about dating. Obviously, this is kind of more from the men's perspective, but ladies, I think you can learn a lot from this as well, just about guys, and maybe give them the benefit of the doubt if they ask you out and they don't come off the most I don't know, charismatic in the beginning. You know, some guys have a little nerve. But yeah, I think this is just going to be a great podcast about men and being able to ask a woman out, how to better yourself, and overall just like become a confident man of God. You know, I think that's what you guys probably I'm a woman. I can't speak for you guys, but
Yeah.
I
No,
assume,
you're right.
right?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, so I guess kind of just diving in here, what is like one of the number one things you see men struggle with today when it comes to dating?
Predominantly for Catholic men, the biggest issue. Now, I've helped, over 250 guys now, so I'm starting to get a really good idea of where the modern Catholic man is, and I can say this pretty assuredly: the Catholic man of today tends to be pretty not happy with themselves. They tend to, 75% of the United States is overweight. So typically the average guy is overweight, they're out of shape, they don't have a ton of money, and they don't really love their life. And when this happens, they end up sort of wearing a mask. And when it comes to Catholic men, they end up wearing this, what I see a lot is this, like what I call the Catholic mask. And they end up making the Catholic faith almost their entire identity. So much so that it's hard to get to know them. And so what ends up happening is they're almost using this as a crutch to like obsess over the faith, which isn't really what their duty is. Aquinas talks about how there's studiosity and curiosity. Studiosity, studying things that are in line with your duties, whereas curiosity is kind of just studying things for the sake of learning. And I think that's what happens with a lot of Catholic guys nowadays is they study things that make them comfortable, like watching Father Ripker videos or binging Pints of Aquinas, which is all great. But then they don't learn the studiousness. They don't learn how to make money. They don't learn how to get in shape. They don't learn how to talk to women. And that's kind of the biggest issue I see in the Catholic dating world right now.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well. I'm married now, obviously, but back when I was single or I was, in relationships or I was looking to date, I always noticed that whenever I went to a Catholic group, the men oftentimes they couldn't just be themselves. They
Right.
had, if they were a part of a guy group, they were usually goofing off or trying to outdo one another
Hmm.
and to get a girl's attention, acting very immaturely.
Yeah,
Have you noticed that?
exactly. Yeah. So that's all comes down to a lack of confidence. So
Mm,
if there's any guy listening, you should ask yourself when, let's say there's a pretty girl and your friends are like, go talk to her. And you say, what do you do? What should I do? And they say, act confident, right? You hear that a lot. Women want confident guys. It's important to kind of step back and realize like what that means. All confidence is a belief in yourself that you will do the things that you say you're going to do. And you believe that because you have a track record of you doing the things you say you're going to do. So if you say you're going to get up at 5 and you do it, and you do that for 6 months, you have a certain confidence about you. If you say you're going to get a promotion, you do the work, you get you have this confidence. That is really what women want in a man who says he's going to do things and then does them. And you do that year after year, you have a lot of confidence. But confidence is not, a dancing monkey in front of a woman. If you have true confidence, you like yourself. You really do. And you don't have to put on airs, so to speak. That's why I know I'll come back to like that situation, but this is why in my program, the number one thing we focus on is habits,
mm.
because habits are going to be the daily disciplines that build the confidence after
And I
months of
think
time.
that's important, the discipline part, because a
Yeah.
lot of men and women, of course, but we're specifically focusing on men now,
Yeah.
lack discipline. I mean, to just do things that they've promised they're going to do, whether it's to themselves, to God, or to others. I mean, I
Right.
can't remember the amount of times I've been let down by a guy who said, like, oh, we're going to go do something. And then they're like, actually, I don't really feel like it. Or,
Totally.
back when I was dating. Or the guy who said, like, oh, I'm going to lose weight and be so healthy for, their New Year's resolution. And
Hmm.
then a week in, they're back doing their old things.
Right. And that's everything. That's everything. Like the idea of a man is you got to steer the ship of a family. And all that really means is all leadership is influence. And all the people in the boat as you steer are watching your actions. And so if they see you go another year, another New Year's resolution of you not doing what you say you're going to do, they're all impacted by that. So it's like you can talk about St. Ambrose and memorize parts of the Summa, but at the end of the day, the most Christian thing you can do is have integrity and do what you say you're going to do. And like that makes you more Catholic than anyone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I definitely do. And I guess a lot of guys probably feel a little bit lost. They probably feel like, in a way, that researching and looking up these things about the faith, in a way, give them
Right.
integrity and give them those things, but they don't realize that practicing integrity is actually what gets you integrity. But I guess maybe they might
Yeah.
feel a little stuck in that.
They do. Yeah, they get caught in this rabbit hole because their friends at the TLM also talk about this stuff and then
Yeah.
they are encouraged to go and read more and stuff. But the only reason I know this stuff is because I was there. Like when I converted, I went full rad trad as it's called and went to the TLM, judged people that received on the hand and like all this stuff.
Hmm.
That was the time though I hated my life the most. I was the least in shape. I had the least amount of money. I didn't have a girlfriend. I didn't like my life. I didn't like I went to college not because I wanted to, but it was safe. Like all these decisions I didn't like about my life. It was way easier to avoid dealing with all of that and just
Mm.
watching, Father Ripper videos and making it sort of staying in my bubble, so to speak.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that a lot too. I've noticed that there are a lot of guys who almost project um
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
problems and stuff onto other people, and this competition thing that I have noticed amongst, I mean, I'm sure it's probably of other, Catholic circles as well, but specifically the traditional Catholic man circle, I've noticed just this competition where it's just like, oh, you ate bugs for breakfast? Well, I only
Yeah.
take bath with ice. Like,
Yeah.
why is everything in competition? You guys are supposed to be supporting each other. Or it's the bro dude
Yeah.
mentality where it's just like, yeah, I went on like 5 dates last week. And,
I've noticed that
I don't
too.
know. You know what I mean?
They're close to the mark, but they're missing it. Yeah, I've seen that
Yeah.
too. Like, yeah, I have a friend who was like bragging about how many dates he went on. It's miss, and he's a traditional Catholic. They're almost there. They're like missing the point that when you have true confidence, you don't have to project. You don't have to put on airs. True confidence. This is another thing about confidence. True confidence is something called self validation. So you only validate yourself based on the habits you executed for the day. Like your internals, you have to look in the mirror during your examine and be like,
Hmm.
how'd I do today? That's it. Anyone's lauding praise or giving you critiques doesn't affect you at all. But these guys, they need that right now. They need the affirmation that like 5 dates, wow, you're such a stud. They're not there yet. True confidence,
Right.
that's where we got to get them, is like and really what that comes from is just months of you like saying, all right, I'm going to get up at 4, I'm going to say my rosary, I'm going to hit the gym, we'll go to mass, I'm going to crush it at work, no scrolling, no websites I shouldn't be looking at. Boom, you do that day after day after day, and then boom, you have confidence. But
Yeah.
that's way harder than being like, oh, I know the filioque doctrine, so they do that.
Yeah, and I've definitely seen it where the guys who decide, you know what, enough. Like I've had enough of this. Like I know
Yeah,
I'm more capable. I'm tired of being miserable and they actually put in the work, the effort, the time. I mean, I'm sure you've seen this from your clients. They're so happy. They find
yeah,
women. They're so happy. They get kids. They get married, then they
yeah.
have kids and it's just such a game changer.
It is. It is. And that's what I try to do. You're not allowed in my community to talk about Catholic debates. It's like a rule. Like, don't be bringing up filioque doctrine or church fathers or anything. We're here to grow. And if
Mhm.
you're called to be a theologian, go do that. That's awesome. But if you're not, you're here to provide. You're here to
Right.
provide and lead. And most of these guys are broke. And that's a whole, I want to get into this, Amber,
Yeah.
this whole notion of you make 40K a year and then you have the audacity to want a trad wife who stays at home all day.
Yep.
Insane. Insane. So I'm very big on the guys in my community. I'm like, what do you want to do? And they're like, oh, I want to be like, like run my own blah, blah, blah. It's like, all right, well, what'd you do today? Because it looks like you just did nothing. So like, let's
Mhm.
paint a vision and like make a plan. And you're going to have to take some risk, but like, you have to provide. If you want the trad wife, you can't make 40K a year.
I would say too, do you think risk also helps confidence to take those risks and to know whether or not they happen or don't? It still helps the confidence?
Yeah, definitely. So you need to have confidence. If you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to take the risk because you think you'll fail. But that's why I just start with the daily disciplines, develop some confidence, and then you can take risk. And the fact of the matter is, guys, it's easier than ever to win because most of America is fat, lazy, and broke. You
Hmm.
can do it. Our values of temperance and fortitude and discipline, like that is the ingredients for success in the capitalist world. So if you just execute and you are on top of your game, there's no reason you won't win. Amber and I can probably both agree on this. If you posted a TikTok, for example, every day for a year and you just tried to make the TikTok better each time, you would have like, you'd never have to worry about followers again.
Yeah. It's
But
not hard at all, especially on TikTok.
yeah, right. Yeah. It's the
And I definitely
consistency. Yeah. Go ahead.
consistency, but also the thing is though is I think it's so much more difficult for men these days because they don't have examples. They don't have people to push them. And the people who do quote unquote push them, like we're talking about in these circles, usually just keep them where they are. They feel like they're being pushed, but
Yeah.
it's still keeping them emotionally maybe immature or just stuck.
Yeah. And I mean, that's why I started what I do. They need someone to kind of break the mold because I broke out of the mold and I was there. Like, I get it. So
What do you think is like the first step in that?
you are missing on a lot of the things you say you're telling yourself. Otherwise, you wouldn't use a crutch. So, like, let's start there. What time did you say you were going to get up in the morning? And what time did you really? Okay. Did you tell yourself you weren't going to look at the websites and then you did? Okay. That's where we got to start because you
Mm,
can't even trust yourself. When you look in the mirror, you don't want to look him in the eye. We got to start there. Did you say you're going to pray the rosary and you only did a decade? Like, once we get that stuff dialed in, life becomes a whole lot better because then you won't go to bed hating yourself. You'll be like, "Ah, dude, I crushed it." And then when you crush it and you believe in yourself, you're like, I don't need to put on a mask. I want to be me.
right.
And the women will like that, obviously. Like, they don't want you to talk about Catholicism all the time. They know you're Catholic. Just be you. That's what they want.
Yeah, I love that series that you did about
Yeah.
what was it, Catholic match dating
Yeah.
profiles, where
Yeah.
you were telling guys how to make their profiles better. As a Catholic woman, though, if I was in the circle where a lot of Catholic women are now, where they're looking for good Catholic men, I would want to say the same thing, but I wouldn't have the balls to say it because I'm a woman and I'm like, who
Yeah.
am I to tell this guy like, hey, I'd prefer these photos of you and I'd prefer. But when another
Yeah.
guy tells another guy like, "Hey, these are the things you should do." And you don't do it in a mean way at all. It's more of
No.
just like, "Hey, these are things that can better your profile, make things better, make you more attractive to the ladies. These are some things
Hmm.
that you can work on." Because at the end of the day, those are the goals of these men on these dating websites is to have a wife and have kids, get married, settle down.
Yeah.
but how do they reach that if they're still stuck, So,
They they need to work on this. Okay, again, that studiosity idea that Aquinas talked about. Work studying things that help you with your duties. That's like a virtue. y- they're not studying things that help them with their duties. If your duty is to get married and be fruitful and multiply, you got to figure out how to get a girl. So you should work on that. Like, how are your social skills? Are they bad? Well, go get the reps in. Like, go chat with people in public. A lot of these guys don't leave their little bubble, and so they
yeah.
don't develop social skills. But if you look at some of the most social people in the Catholic community, like priests, expert communicators, they're so easy to chat with. So it's like, get the reps in. If you're struggle with talking to women, go talk to 200 of them. Like, take a weekend and just chat with everybody, because once you can chat, that's like step one. Just that you
Yeah.
you should be able, as a Catholic, especially if you say you're an evangelizer, like Matthew 26, go preach the gospel to all nations. You want to do that, you got to be able to chit chat. So like, just be able to talk to anyone about anything, and that's huge. That should be like top priority for guys.
Yeah.
And then
I
after
think
that, you can do the
also,
flirting and stuff.
yeah, the flirting stuff comes next. But I
Yeah.
think especially, I don't know, I get so many emails from men who say, I'm too shy, I'm too this, I'm too that. And it's just like, I don't, in a way, it's like, obviously, I feel sympathy for them because I'm like, I'm an introvert as well.
Yeah.
But also as a woman, I'm like, okay, this is the first problem. You're coming to a woman with this
Yeah.
problem, mainly because I mean, because in a way it tells me that they're looking for softer advice,
Right.
advice that's more mothering as opposed to paternal advice of what a
Yeah.
man would tell the son type of thing. And so to me, I'm like, that's the first thing. So usually I point them towards your direction, and I'm just like,
Thank you. Yeah.
go talk to Joe.
Let's go. Yeah. Yeah.
But I noticed
If
that.
Yeah, first things first, anyone listening to this, if you're telling yourself like, I can't talk to women, I'm shy, I don't even like saying it. Like, I do not speak things that don't align with who I believe I am. Like,
Hmm.
I would never say I'm bad with money. I would never say I'm lazy. Like, those things don't come out of my mouth, except for right now in this example. um, what thoughts you allow in your head and you speak will become your reality. Why do you think we pray every day? We're just constantly aligning ourselves with our identity. Don't say those things. If you think you're shy, just be like, I used to be shy, but I work on it every day, and now I'm getting better every day. Think like that. And that's how you progress.
Yeah.
You'll have an insane amount of confidence if you grow.
Yeah, and I think like we were talking about earlier with integrity, I mean, that's really what comes into key here. Integrity and confidence kind of go hand in hand. We kind
Totally.
of talked about how you can get confidence. What about integrity? How does a man kind of cultivate that?
You need to identify that. Okay. So when we talk about values, there are obviously like all values we share as men and women in the Catholic world. But then there's some things that you hold on like a pedestal, right? Like, maybe from your childhood, your dad used to lie to you. So honesty is like top notch for you, something like that. Men should have integrity be like the pinnacle. Like,
Mm,
you do not break promises. Like, what do women always critique men for? Lying, breaking their promises.
yeah.
It needs to be top priority, which means like you have to. So this is how you like change your identity. Identity can be fluid, and it should be. But what you need to do is set the vision of who you want to be. Like, I am an integral man. And then you live as if you are integral. And then sooner than later, you will become that. Like,
Right.
habits maketh man. So, like, you need to practice now, have the identity now. And then one day that is your character.
Yeah, I definitely think setting those little goals are sometimes I think they're overwhelming when people first think about it. They're like, oh, where do I even start? Where do I even begin? But when you start and when you actually realize you have a problem, because like always, you have to admit you have a problem in order to fix it.
Hmm.
But I think a lot of guys know they have the problem. They know they're miserable. They feel like it, and yet they try to use the exact same remedies over and over again of hanging out with the guy friends, being bro
Yeah,
dudes, doing this, and it never goes anywhere. But they keep thinking maybe this time, maybe, and it almost becomes an addiction for them. Becomes very
totally.
hard for them to kind of break out from that because they're going to be
Yeah.
ostracized almost from the other
So
guys.
that's a huge point you bring up. I really like that. You're going to become who you surround yourself with. So if you guys are slacking in life, and you know if you're slacking, ask yourself who you're around. Like, if you don't have a six pack, I guarantee you your four closest guy friends do not have six packs. If you can't bench two plates, I guarantee you your friends can't. Like, we should be friends with everyone because we're Catholics. We're like all friends in Jesus. But there are concentric circles, and the inner circle, the tight group, that should change as you grow.
Mm,
There's the once a year people and there's the once a month people, but then there's those once like all day, like you're texting, you're in the group chat, you see them every day. That needs to be curated insanely. I just got off a 2-hour phone call a couple days ago with two multi millionaires. And I'm not saying wealth equals virtue, but like they play at an insanely high level, insanely. And I spend as much time with them as I can. I want to know how they think. I want to know the standards they set because this is really important, guys. When you get around groups that are kind of farther along in an area that you're trying to be at, you see how the standard changes. You see how the language that comes out of their mouth changes, right? So if you're trying to get fit, you get around more fit people. You'll see how they train. You'll see how they speak about diet. You'll see their priorities. If you're trying to make money, you get around wealthier people. You'll see how they speak about money. You'll see their standards. So you surround yourself with your standards raised. It's the biggest problem I see with Catholic men. They don't change their circles.
yes. And I've noticed that, it becomes a click and then it becomes one of those things where they become an endless cycle of just being
Yeah,
toxic for each other.
exactly.
And there needs to be one person to at least be like, hey guys, maybe this isn't the best.
Yeah,
This isn't the best way to be better or something, and then they get kicked out of the group because of it. I've seen it
yeah,
happen, and
it's
it's
fine.
sad. It's sad.
Yeah, it's like good though for the guy. Like you love them, they're probably not on a growth path. So if anyone ever is critiquing you for taking risk or growing, they're they're not self-developing and you need to love them from kind of a distance. Maybe they're once a month people. Get lunch once a month. Because if you keep those people around you, that will become your mentality. And now we have an issue because your duty's to lead and steer the ship and you're around people that are keeping you down. So now you're messing with your duties. So like I'm very big on guys. That's why my big thing, I mean, I sell fitness, but like community. And they see I don't tolerate that behavior. You're not allowed to say like, I'm just so busy. It's like pause. Why are you
Mhm.
speaking that way? We stop that because that's the issue.
Yeah. And I've noticed too, even with myself, when I start saying, like, oh, I'm just so busy or this or that, I'm like, okay, wait, how many hours have I scrolled through Instagram today?
Exactly.
I'm too busy. And then I'll kind of like admonish myself just in like, my own mental way. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, you had
Right.
literally two
Hmm.
hours of time. You could have gone for a run or worked out for even 20 minutes. Like, what? And then I'm like,
Yes.
oh, yeah, huh.
Yeah, because when you say that you're too busy, what we're doing is we're like casting the power away. We're saying, well, nothing I can do. I'm
Hmm.
just too busy. The calendar's filled. It's not my fault. It's the calendar's fault. And so you never, ever, ever want to blame anything or anyone for your problems. It's all your fault. It's all your fault. Girlfriend's mad at you. It's your fault. Because if you blame her, you have no power to change. And that's such a problem with Catholic men. What do they always do? They blame the Catholic women. Standards are too high. They don't want to dance or something. I don't know. They
Yeah.
always blame the women. Dude, it's not the women's fault.
It literally happened yesterday. One of my friends posted a tweet and said, men, if you want to date a woman, be yourself, be confident, like open the
Yeah.
door, like put in 100% effort every time, even if it doesn't work out, because it would be good for you. And even if she says no, like at least you did everything. The comments, Joe, the comments were
Yeah.
like, but women never give us 100%, so why should we give them
See?
100%? And
Yeah.
it's just like, what do you
Yeah.
mean?
Women will give you 100% if you fully provide. Like Michaela does work. She doesn't have to work. She doesn't have to work ever, and she'll never have to. And it's like
Mhm.
you give them that safety. You tell them like be in shape so you can actually protect them. They want strength. Guys, they don't want to walk down the street with a fat man. And there's just no two ways around it. Like she would rather walk down the street with a fit man. So you do all these things. You treat her like a woman. She'll give you 100%.
Yeah.
It's you. It's you.
Yeah. And I think that was the craziest thing when I looked at the comment section, was just realizing how hateful some men were towards women just because of
Yeah,
like their own insecurities.
totally. Yeah.
And that's
So
just so crazy.
it's a vicious like circle or like I guess rabbit hole that these guys fall down, almost like misogynistic,
Hmm.
where they like do not like women. They're frustrated with them, like that incel behavior, I think it's called. So
Yes. Yeah, that's
yeah,
all over Twitter. And it's like now the whole like I forget what it was, but there was like a wife jack meme going around for a while about how like if men want a wife and a family, he's like an incel, or he's the one that's somehow, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. I've heard stuff like that.
It's so
At
dumb.
the at the end of the day, here are some general golden rules for men listening to this. If you're ever putting negativity out, like disparaging, being bitter, anger, anything like that, it's your fault. Like you are wrong. All right. I'm telling you right now, Bishop Barron doesn't scroll through Instagram comments posting hate. Neither does Mark Wahlberg, Father Mike. The people you look up to have ascended past that. You need
Yeah.
work to do. Just like the priests. I've said some controversial stuff. I've never had a priest in my DM or in my comment section being like, you're an idiot
Hmm.
ever. Why is that? They've done the work. You haven't. You need to do the work. And then you'll realize once you do the work, you will make more money. You'll believe in yourself to take risk. You're probably choosing a really safe job and sacrificing a big paycheck for the safety and the comfort because you don't believe in yourself. But once you believe in yourself, you can get the bag and then fully provide. And then your life got better. See, it wasn't the woman's fault. So this is why it all comes back to just the habits. It's crazy.
What are some habits that you think men could start tomorrow and get really good at within like 2 weeks for Valentine's Day? Maybe they have a
Yeah.
date, maybe they don't, but what are some core, I don't know, ideas that you have for them?
Yeah. So, number one, no phone in the bedroom. The bedroom is for sleeping. So, train your brain to go into the bedroom and it's only for sleeping or reading. That means your alarm has to be outside of the room, right? So you put your phone in like the bathroom. That's what I do because then I can phone right next to the bathroom. I used to do this. Now I have a sun clock. If you've heard of those, it's
I
like a
have that too. Yeah.
yeah,
It's,
yeah. I like
yeah.
it. But if you're using your phone in the bathroom, I used to do, and then I'm boom, I'm already there. I can go to the bathroom, and then I'm kind of going. That's huge. Sleep will change everything. Second habit I would recommend is getting up 30 minutes earlier than you do now. Most of you guys get up at like 7. Pathetic. Get up earlier, boys. Like there should be a 4 or 5 on the clock no matter what. And if you're not there yet, we got to start getting there. Because you need time to, this is the big thing, the big habit. You need time to self-care. You need to take care of yourself. First thing you should do, prayer, get active so your body's ready for the day. But then you should also spend time in the morning on your vision. You have to remember you're steering a ship. You have to know where you're going financially, personally, health wise, everything. I keep my first vision board up there, but it used to have like all my initial dreams and it changes. Now it's changed. Now it's my laptop screen, but you have to steer the ship, which means you need to know where you're going because the people in your family are going to be like, what if they're like, Joe, where are you going? And I'm like, shh, I don't know. Blind leading the blind. They'd be like, I don't feel safe with my husband.
Right.
Can't have that. So, I would say, biggest thing, figure out your vision, know what you want, start making a plan. That was like
Yeah.
5 habits, but yeah, all that was helpful.
I think that's important because I think men also, we learn that men are visual creatures, right? And so
Yeah.
they need to kind of see it. They're also very object focused. So they need to see a task and they need to see how it can physically work out. And I don't think, and I could be completely wrong about this, I don't think a lot of guys spend a whole lot of time, I don't want to say thinking because that's not what I mean, but like really just sitting down and just like contemplating. Maybe that's what I mean. Is just like thinking out their decisions, thinking about the pros and cons of
Yeah.
something. Does that check with you?
Yeah. They need to spend more time. I think contemplating is a good way to say it. Also, like envisioning what they're going to be doing. A lot of
Yes.
guys live day to day, and that's called drifting. And you can never drift to the top of a mountain, as they used to say. So it's very important. Like your girlfriend should be able to ask you, like, where are we going to be in 5 years? And you can be like, boom, the company's going to have 500 Catholic men. We're doing this much money. I started my second company. I'm 240 pounds lean, like all this, because it's like laid out. And it's like, even if I missed, I'd be so dang close. I know it to the target. So it's like, if you don't have that, you will never achieve your dreams, which
Right.
means you're not growing towards what God put in your heart. Oh, sorry, I lost you for a second. Which means
No, you're
God,
good.
which means you you are not like going towards what God put in your heart, which means you won't have true confidence, and it's just like this domino effect.
Yeah, and I definitely think with women, we feel as though we need to fill the role of the man because that's just
Yeah.
kind of, first of all, feminism has played its own role in it.
Oh
So,
yeah.
but men can't blame feminism for everything because
No.
they've also sort of taken a step down from responsibility, and that's forced women to kind of fill that role. Now, ladies, you do have a responsibility to submit to men and to like do your own work, but I have noticed that too.
Yeah, men took a step down for sure. If you ask the average man doesn't make enough to provide for his wife. And if you ask him, like, bro, why aren't you making more money? The first thing he's going to blame is not himself. He'll blame the economy. He'll be like, well,
Mhm.
golly, like, look at the inflation and the interest on loans. And golly, like, with Biden in office, what do you expect me to do, Joe? It's like casting power away.
Mhm.
It's very sad. It's like, dude, it's you. You have to
Yeah.
know that. You have to know
And I
that.
think people feel as though they've lost control of their lives. And to realize that free will is a gift and that we
Yeah.
are not being controlled by anything or anyone except that our own minds
Yeah.
and what we allow into our lives.
Right. And that's why, like, you should take it upon yourself if you're a Catholic man listening to this. Like, let's say you can't provide or you're out of shape or something. Take a step back and be like, all right, who do I spend my days with? How do I spend my days? That should change. Maybe I should get around. Okay, if I got to make $6,000 a month to provide for my wife and kids, none of my friends make that. Maybe I should get around people who make that. What do they do differently? How do they leverage their skills to get income? Those are the questions you should be asking as a Catholic man, not, well, what's the rebuttal to this syllogism? You're not called to that. And it's taking energy away. Your job's to lead and provide. And you're not doing either right now. You know?
Right. What would you say? How would you suggest a man go about finding people like that? Are there groups? Are there
Yeah.
places?
Joe Jarrell.
Oh, yeah.
Mentorship programs. Yeah. Mentorship programs are huge. The number one thing is to get around other people who are ahead of you in the area you're trying to grow in. So if you're struggling with money, you want to get around wealthier people. Struggling with fitness, get around people who are in better shape. You can find those communities online. That's what I built basically for fitness.
Yeah.
But for example, like I started a coaching business for Catholic men. I didn't have any clients. I wanted clients and I didn't know what I was doing. So I joined a mentorship program and I got around um, probably like 500 coaches trying to get their first 5 clients.
Wow.
Okay. Really helpful. When you get around mentors, it time collapses how quickly it will take you to get to the goal. In my case, 5 clients, because you're around so many people, they kind of know what works. I wouldn't have to just find it on my own.
Right.
Now, this is really big, and let me know if I'm ranting.
No,
Um,
go for it.
this is really big for people to understand. Notice how I paid money to time collapse to get to a goal. That's how you want to live life because the only asset you can't get more of is time. So you should always trade money for time and get to your goal as quickly as possible. You don't do that because you don't believe in yourself to make enough money. But if you think differently and you develop the skills to make money, you never have to worry and you can always trade money for time.
Yeah.
And
And
that's the secret.
I think that's interesting too because it does come down to somewhat of like a mindset
Hmm.
change. And when I was struggling, this is completely different, like end of the spectrum. But as a woman, when I was struggling with like body dysmorphia and self harm and things of that nature, what I realized was changing my mindset and being able to speak positively to myself and just come
Yeah.
out of it. And that's not, the easiest thing to do, of course. But for me, being able to stop myself from the negative thinking and replace that with positive thinking, even if I didn't feel like it.
Yes.
I was like, no, this isn't healthy for me. I'm tired of feeling this way. I'm tired of, hiding my arms. I'm tired of, feeling like I don't belong in my body.
Hmm.
I decided to do something about it because I was miserable. And sometimes hitting rock bottom is where you need to go in order to go up because you can't go any further down.
Yes.
Um, but it really does come to a mindset change. And
100%.
mental illness does play a role, of course, in certain areas, but I definitely have found that the way we speak to ourselves really does communicate how we truly feel about ourselves and how we portray
100%.
ourselves to the outside world.
It's everything. It's everything. Thoughts becomes your actions. Actions place you in your circumstances. And that's why you're here. So it all starts with thoughts. There's a book called As a Man Thinketh by James Allen, very famous, essay about thinking. It starts with as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Your character is literally the, you know, congregation of your thoughts. So it's everything. So that's why you can tell where a guy is at in his self-development journey. I can almost tell you how much money he makes based on the way he speaks, if you can believe that. I can tell you how fit he is by how he speaks, because the language you speak says so much about what you allow into your life.
Hmm.
You know, like never,
Yeah.
like if a guy was like, oh, we can't get ahead in this world, like, dude, we can't, like, look at this, look at the economy, like the man's just pressing down on us, like nothing we can do. It's like, well, I guarantee you you're broke, because no
Yeah.
rich person would ever say that. And I'm not saying chase wealth, like we all know the eye in the needle, but a lot of you guys live paycheck to paycheck and you can't provide for a wife. And to me, as a Catholic mentor, it's like, we got to fix that.
Yeah. I think also what came to mind was when you were talking about the type of guys and you can kind of depend who they are based off of what they say or how they speak.
Yeah.
I um when I was in the dating scheme and everything,
Hmm.
one of the biggest turnoffs for me for men was that they played video games. I didn't
Yeah.
care if it was like, oh, yeah, I play it with my friends or something here or there, or like, oh, I play a game once in a while. No, I'm talking about the guys. It's like that. It was their life. It was their
Yeah.
hobby. It was what they talked about. Their character was a part of their
Hmm.
social media. Like
Hmm.
a- like that was a huge red flag to me because I was like, what are you running from in your life? Why are you
Right.
filling your life with this one specific thing? And it also just communicated this level of immaturity to
Right.
me that was like, can I trust you to not be playing video games every night and actually take me on dates, take care of our kid? Like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Because the notion of video or the thought of video games, especially these days, is people play them for hours and
It's
hours,
crazy.
and
Yeah.
they basically use it as an escapism
Yeah.
from their life.
Totally. I totally agree. It's like sports too.
Hmm.
It's it's a weakness, because obviously leisure is a part of life. Like we
Yes.
should Mario Party with the family can be really fun. Like I used to do that
Yeah.
with my brothers. But yeah, gaming, like gaming, you got to go game with the boys. That's a
Mhm.
weakness, because your job's not to game. Your job is to go do whatever God called you to. And like they use it as an escape, very similar to sports, and they tie it to their identity because they don't like their true identity, and they just get caught in the addiction. That's why, I'll make a post about like not watching sports. I tend to do that because I roast guys who watch sports.
That's
Tons
fair.
of comments, people freaking out, get very angry. And listen, if you're ever like, a hate comment is just a doorway into what the guy is really insecure about. So it
Yeah.
tells you everything you need to know. Yeah.
It's true. Yeah, I think also because sports are so saturated, they're like, "Oh, well, it's like the American pastime or whatever it's called." And I'm
Yes.
like, "Look, I maybe watch a football game on for the Super Bowl, maybe,
Yeah.
but outside of that, maybe one game of hockey here or there. But other
Totally.
than that, it's like if it's your entire personality though, like where's your personality?"
Yeah. Do you think the people you look up to watch as much sports as you? That's what I would ask them. Like the people you
Hmm.
dream about meeting or talking to. A lot of guys want to meet Father Mike. Do you think he just obsesses over sports and knows all the numbers and stuff? No, he doesn't. He doesn't. You do. So, um, yeah, quitting that. At the end of the day, you're watching other men achieve their dreams. That's what you're doing. You're watching
Ah,
like people that achieve their dreams on TV, and you're living vicariously through them. You're like,
I think
go do that.
that's
Just go do that in real life. It's fun.
I think that's an important point. The whole like living vicariously through you. Women do this too. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. Like we see vloggers or we see certain people, and we live vicariously through them as well. But I never realized that until you said that men kind of live vicariously through their favorite sport or their
Hmm.
favorite team or something. Because that's kind of how it was. Okay, I'm about to out myself here. That's
No,
how it
you're
kind of
good.
was for me when I used to play The Sims, where
Hmm.
I would live vicariously through my sim character.
Yeah.
Anything that I wanted to do, my sim could do. So why should I do it if I'm already living
Right.
vicariously through this person? Well, game. Oof.
Yep. No, I know what you mean. There's like mirror neurons that fire when you watch sports. They've done studies on it, and you've probably seen guys who get like really angry at the TV, or
Yeah.
like my team lost. It's all these coping mechanisms. It's not your team. You don't play for them. That's a corporation headquartered in your state, and they paid some of their expenses to get a player, and they're playing other corporations, and none of it involves you. You tell yourself these stories so you can feel like you're part of the game, but you're not.
Hmm. Yeah.
So it's kind of sad, but nothing against like watching sports with your family and like having Mario Party 6 or whatever. Um, that's different, you know.
Yeah, there's a time and a place for everything. I think when it becomes your sole obsession, though, like you watch sports alone just for because you can, or
Hmm.
you play or you watch sports, and this can go for really anything if you think about it. Even Netflix shows, binge watching in general,
Totally.
doing things to vicariously live through your favorite character on a TV show or your favorite video game character or something. We're all guilty of that. We're
Yeah.
all guilty in some aspect. And there's a time and place for it, right? Like if my friends came over, we would we would binge watch the Twilight Saga because we like to laugh at
Yeah.
it and we think it's so dumb and funny. But would I sit there by myself obsessing over Edward Cullen and like
No.
watching? No, because it's not something that I think it's funny and I send my
Yeah.
friends memes and reels, but it's not something that I'm like, oh, I'm going to make this my entire personality. And yet on social media, I see these girls whose rooms are completely covered in Twilight memorabilia or Vampire Diaries memorabilia or squishies or
Yeah.
fluffies. And that's from a woman's perspective. But on the men's perspective, there's men who just collect endless figurines and
Yeah.
Legos
It's
and
crazy.
things like that.
Yeah. What I agree. What I usually say is, 5, 6, 7 hours a week of leisure is plenty, and that's spread out through the week. So, like Michaela and I watched a movie last night. There's a couple hours. I'm playing euchre, which is a card game. I don't know if you know it.
Yeah, I do.
And
It's fun.
yeah, okay, yeah, yeah. Tomorrow, so there's a few hours there. That's about it. That's all I got. The rest, I'll get back to work. On Sundays, I'll still putz, like get stuff done, but I'm not like being a bum.
Yeah.
It's plenty. Your great grandfather didn't need more than 7 hours to like just relax. Like life is so hard. Your life's not hard. You don't work in the coal mines. You don't storm the beaches of Normandy. Your life's okay. And if you got around higher level men, you'd realize that. But that's a big thing I'll tell guys is like how much time you spending on this and that. And it's like, all right, we're dialing that back.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's really important because, again, I do think men need other men to tell them these things and
Yeah.
need this kind of mentorship because women, we've tried, but we've either been labeled the B word or
Sure.
we're constantly just, it's not meant to come from us because it just comes off as being like a feminist in a way.
Yeah.
Even if we do it from a place of love and of compassion, it's just I don't know how to explain it, but it's like as women, it's just not, I don't want to say it's not our place because, like, obviously women should correct their husbands if you're married. But when it comes to
Right.
like boyfriends and things, I feel like you can offer, like, be like, hey, I've just noticed that, you've been eating a lot more recently. Been gaining a little more weight. Is there anything I can talk to you about? But only a guy can be like, hey, go work out, get to the gym,
Yeah.
let's go, like, get up, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, totally. That's how you should be viewing viewing life, which lens you should be viewing life through. Like a lot of people don't. They don't view life through a lens, and you should. If you're living life through the lens of being a Christian as a man, that means, all right, you're leading, you're providing. To lead is done by example. It doesn't matter what you say. There's a famous poem I like to tell men, which is, excuse me, no written word or spoken plea can teach our youth what they should be, nor all the books on all the shelves. It's what the teachers are themselves.
Mm,
So, your kids don't care what you say, they care what you do. And so, if you're viewing life through that lens, you're saying, all right, what actions am I going to take today? What thoughts am I going to allow in my head to make sure I do lead, to make sure I do provide? Those are two things. But most guys are like, oh my gosh, like the Packers play tonight. I can't wait. And then they shake their head and throw their hands up in the air when they can't get a girl.
right. Yeah. And I've noticed that a lot. And it's interesting to me how they continue living the same life over and over again every day. And they still wonder why nothing's changed. And it's like, you have to
Yeah.
put in the work, you got to put in the time.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
but now
hard.
that we're,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, sorry.
go ahead. No, no, no,
I
go
was just
ahead.
going to say it's very hard to leave. I don't go to my young adult groups anymore. I don't go to our youth get togethers because like they seemed weird and I didn't vibe with them.
Yep.
And they're not focused on
Same.
self development and they're all broke. And frankly, I can't be, I can't make my wife work. That's not my job. God told me I got to provide. So it's like, I got to figure that out. I got to learn about money. I got to learn about fitness. So my kids aren't, we're in kind of like an obesity epidemic in the West. So
A
I
little
have to make
bit.
sure, yeah, I have to be fit to teach my kids. Like That's how I should be spending my time, I think. So
Hmm.
that I had to leave. So I get it, guys. It's hard to leave, but I still get lunch with them every now and then. But it's like my inner circle changed dramatically.
Yeah, I
So
mean, that's
yeah,
one of the reasons why my husband and I left our youth groups too, is
really.
what actually ended up happening was we would go to one group, and there was specifically this one clique that just
Hmm.
went from church group to church group to church group. So no matter what church group we went to, they were always there.
That's
There
great.
was no finding new people or
Yeah.
escaping the clique and that type of immaturity. And it was exhausting. So we just left and we were like, you know what? This isn't worth it because we're not growing, we're not learning. And
Hmm.
um, I mean, it doesn't sound the best, but we were mentally more mature in a lot
Yeah.
of things we wanted to do that they didn't understand, and we actually got picked on for it. And it was just like, what do you mean? Yes, of course my at the time boyfriend wants to support me and wants me to be a stay-at-home mom one day and do all these things. Like, isn't that what you guys want? Like,
Yeah.
and they're like, no, like if she has a degree, like she should be able to work and like da 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 double income because the economy sucks. And what?
See. Yeah. See, it's crazy.
It
It's such
is.
a and I guarantee you their friends speak like that too. Like I bet they all
Mhm.
spoke like that.
They did.
Yeah.
It was
But no
just it
one
was
i-
it was just like a repetitive little like mime a bird. Everybody just repeated what everybody
yeah.
said.
Yeah. But imagine if they got around a community where none of that language is tolerated. Like you are not allowed to cast blame. Your income is all your fault. What are they going to do? They'll be like, okay, well, gosh, how would I increase my income? Maybe I should stop collecting these figurines and maybe I could like leverage my skills better. Oh, now I make
Mhm.
more money. Oh, now my sweetheart doesn't have to work. It's like all because you changed where you like put the blame. So,
Yeah.
yeah, if there was like one thing a guy listening to this can take away, like a Catholic guy, it would be to get around people that are where you want to be,
Mm.
not necessarily that simply just share your religion.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And as we wrap up, I think one last thing we can talk about or just kind
Hmm.
of you can mention is what are some, this is a little more lighthearted, what are
Yeah.
some fun date ideas guys could
Ooh.
plan for their girls?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I like unique things. So like in Milwaukee, we have this thing where you can it's like football and bowling. So you can like throw a football at bowling pins, something unique, and then they bring you beer and they have like giant basketball nets, like fun things like that.
That sounds
I
so cool.
it is. It's called First and Bowl. Really cool. I don't know if it's in Chicago, but fun things like that, whirly ball, First and Bowl. I think those are great options because it's like you're
Okay.
out, you're doing something. You're not just watching a movie. Because when you watch a movie, you can't chat, but these things
True.
you could chat.
Yeah, I think that's really
Um,
important. Whenever I went on a first movie with a guy for a first or even second date, I'm like, I learned nothing about this man.
right. You get to see how they interact with other people, how he's doing with the waitress. Like it tells. It's a good one.
Yeah. Do you suggest like coffee dates or ice cream dates or picnics too for first dates?
I don't know if I do a picnic. It's pretty romantic for a first
Oh,
date.
fair.
I like ice cream and coffee. I think coffee is the best because especially for the first one because it is a stranger. You guys got to understand this woman is like meeting a stranger and that's scary for her and she wants to be in a public place.
Yes.
So coffee and if you keep it to like 15 minutes even, but you're super cool and you make her laugh and you're totally normal, you will 100% get the second date. She's like, okay, he passed the filter. Like he's normal, he's chill. We're good.
Yeah.
Give her that option to be like in a public space to make sure you're not a next Ted Bundy.
I will say as a woman, the whole like, yes, we do need to know who you are before we feel comfortable with you. And
Yeah,
I don't think guys get that because they don't have the same fear kind of alert system that women
yeah,
do because of, I mean, just the fact we're women and we're not to say we're prey. I mean, we can fight back, but against a man, like what good really, I mean, I've heard so many horror stories, you know? Um, so
yeah,
it's like for women, they do have to understand that we have more of a cautious side of us. But if
totally.
you let, yeah, if you hang out with us for a while and we get to have a chance to let our walls come down, yeah.
Yeah, and this all kind of comes back to you wanting to be you. Like you should want to FaceTime her before you meet. Let's say you met her on Catholic Match or something. FaceTime her. Like she wants, don't be afraid to be you. And if you are, that comes back to the habits and the confidence thing. But yeah, that's what she's looking for, I think,
Also,
is
yes,
your
no, but
authenticity.
also I want to say this from my own experiences. Put in effort, please. Don't
Oh yeah.
act like whatever attitude or just like I don't really care, like it's whatever you want. Women don't actually want that. Women don't want to be like, "Oh, honey, where do you want to go eat?" It's more like,
Yeah, no.
"Hey, I booked a reservation at one of your favorite restaurants for 7:30 p.m." Obviously, make sure she's free first. Don't just like but you know what I
Yeah.
don't just like ruin
Yeah.
all of her plans. But
Yeah. It's
still,
true.
like
Put in
women
work.
want that.
Michaela lives in California. I would send her flowers, DoorDashed her lunch, took her to Rome, like she put in the work. They want that.
Yeah.
And you
Exactly. And
should, that should be what you want too, as a guy. Like,
yeah, you shouldn't, as a man, you shouldn't want your life to be dictated by a woman. Not saying that
no.
she can't have a say in things, of course. I mean, when you get married, it's, you guys have conversations together and you guys come to conclusions together, but the man
Hmm.
is the leader.
Yes.
And it's unnatural for the woman to become the man. And I see that happen in so many marriages and they're just miserable because it's so disordered.
So true. Yeah. We can
Yeah.
do a whole podcast on that too.
Yeah, we might have to bring you back on.
Yeah. I'd love to. Yeah. Yeah.
But I guess that was just a great talk. Thank you so much, Joe. And where can my listeners find you one more time before we jump
Yeah,
off?
of course. Most of my stuff is on Instagram at Joe Jarrell, JoeJarrell_. And then I also have YouTube. And if you want to listen to some of my long form stuff, I have a podcast on Apple Music or, Apple Podcasts and Spotify called Tradition Transformed. So check me out in
Perfect.
those.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joe. I really appreciate you coming on and talking about
Yeah,
this.
of course, Amber. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. And with all of that being said, guys, that's all I have for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed and learned something, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Bye. Do you have questions or comments about today's episode? Email me at thereligioushippie@gmail.com or leave a voice message at anchor.fm/thereligioushippie. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Please be sure to rate and review this episode. This podcast is produced by Amber Rose and distributed by Metacortext Publishing. This podcast is copyright by The Religious Hippie, NFP. Any previously trademarked or copyright content is used by permission. Information and opinions in this podcast should not be construed as medical advice. Please be sure to visit the official website for The Religious Hippie at thereligioushippie.com or find me on social media for other unique content. Thank you.